Guys, welcome to the first installment of SamboTech breakdowns. By popular demand, people have been asking me to break down some MMA fights over the years, usually that involving leg locks and some other things. But so we're finally going to get to it, and I think the Palhares Fitch World Series of Fighting Championship bout is a great launching point. So I'm here with Josh, and we're gonna break down this fight and show you some of the things that Fitch could have done better, and also some of the things that Palhares could have done better, even though he did win. And we're going to skip past the few moments of stand-up striking and go right, starting from the point where Palhares shoots the single and sits under for the leg attack. So what we're going to do first is just quickly run through what actually happened in the fight, and then we're going to go back and go through it step by step. So Palhares shoots the single and sits under for the leg attack. At this point, Fitch is brought down, he's stacking, he stands up, Palhares goes for the heel hook. Fitch goes for his own heel hook. He falls underneath, they both lose their attacks. Palhares goes for the Achilles and rolls to put the foot on the low side. At this point, Fitch goes for ankle control and is working to pin Palhares' ankle. Right? Palhares is still having the leg control with the Achilles. Then, at a certain point, for some reason, Fitch decides he's going to try and spin out, and he gives up this ankle control, and he turns, giving Palhares the reap and the heel hook. Fitch realizes bad situation, tries to turn back, realizes he can't. So he continues to turn. Palhares allows him to turn, taking the knee bar for the finish. That's how essentially the fight went down. So now what we're going to do is break it down step by step. Okay, because there were a couple of moments in this fight, at least two, where Fitch was at the door front to escape. But he made the wrong choice. Okay, because Palhares did have some slight errors of his own, and Fitch failed to be able to capitalize on them. So we're going to start from the beginning, from the single to the stack. So Palhares takes the single and sits under. Brings Fitch down. Now here Fitch has this. If you look at this position, Fitch is in great shape, okay? Palhares does not have the ankle. He's hugging the knee, okay? He also doesn't have the reap, because Fitch is doing the right thing. He's stacking and blocking. At this point, rather than stand up, which is what Fitch decided to do, he should have continued to stack. There are moments in leg lock wars where you have a choice, stack or stand. This is one of those stack moments, okay? Because everything depends on preventing that reap and allowing Palhares to get leg control. So at this point, Fitch already had halfway of the position that he needed. At this point, he should have continued to stack, sprawled this leg away. Boom. Palhares may have ended up with this butterfly, which is risky, but you do a little hip heist out to the side, and now Fitch is in a nice side control. Okay? This would have been a really good option for Fitch. But what happened was he gets here and he decides to stand. Okay? When he stands, he gives Palhares the heel hook and the reap. And if you notice from this position where Fitch was, his foot was not flat on the floor, and this is why Palhares was able to get the heel hook. Now really, if Palhares had a tighter sit on this, he would already be on the ankle. But because he was so tight on the leg, he was around the knee. This is why it was good for Fitch. But Fitch decided to stand up. He gives Palhares the reap and the heel hook. This leg comes out. Palhares' leg comes out. Fitch decides, I'm going to counter attack. And he only decided it for a split second. I think he realized this was a mistake, but it was too late. You can see him going for the heel hook, and he falls on this knee, which is then tucked under. Boom. Out of the fall, he loses the heel hook, and Fitch loses the heel hook. Right? At this point, Palhares does the proper thing. And I always teach all my students this. Start with the Achilles lock first, and then progress later to the twisting foot locks once you have leg control. So Palhares was smart. He realizes, all right, I may lose Fitch, so he goes to what's going to keep them connected, which is the Achilles, right? This is what keeps us connected. Especially because what Fitch did next was proper, which was try to control this ankle and pin it. So now we get to this position where Palhares' one leg is over here, Fitch's leg is tucked underneath, and he's controlling this, and Palhares is keeping that connection to the two of them by holding the Achilles. He's not rushing to the heel hook. Very smart. At this point, what Fitch decided to do was try and roll out, which is the wrong decision to make. Really what you need to do is realize that I'm very safe right now. He has no lock on my Achilles. He has no thigh control. I'm controlling the reap here. At this point, Fitch, his better choice would have been to continue to control this by butt scooting over and sitting on top of it. Here, right? By doing that, he gives this leg some freedom now to get to the knee, get this foot flat on the floor. And then we go back to where we were before. Stack and sprawl. Near that leg, hip heist out, come to your side control. Okay? That's position 2, where Fitch had a moment to escape, but made the wrong choice. So let's go back to that position again. So here we are. Palhares is laying down. Fitch's foot is tucked, and he's got this pinned, right? So what Fitch does decide to do is try and roll out. And he only decides it for a split second, but again, it's a split second too much, because as soon as he tries to roll, he gives Palhares the reap and the attack on the heel hook, right? So he rolls, Palhares gets that and that. Now Fitch, you can see it in the fight, decides, that wasn't a good move. He tries to go back, and now the reap is blocking his return, okay? At this point, again, Fitch has a choice to make on how to deal with this. Palhares is close to a finish. He's got the reap. Now he's got the leg control that he wants, and he's got the position on the ankle he wants. What Fitch does is roll, and Palhares lets him roll. Boom. He keeps that heel hook position. His wrist is still in the Achilles. Yeah?
Yeah.
This is where the knee bar starts. Fitch falls over, and this is where the knee bar finishes. Okay? So let's go back. We're over here. That's how the fight ends. What we need to know about this position, defending this position, and it's really actually a much easier position because it's not inverted. Inverteds are much more complicated, but this is a standard heel hook, okay? What you have to understand when you're defending leg locks, especially, most people understand the heel hook attacks the knee, it doesn't attack the foot. The Achilles lock, for example, go back to Achilles. Everybody knows basic defense for the Achilles is to put the boot on to straighten your leg and flex that foot. You cannot do that with a heel hook. And I may be repeating stuff that you guys already know, so now we go back to the heel hook, but I'm going to say it anyway because I want to make a point. If you try to straighten your leg here, it's going to increase the tension on your knee. So you don't want to do that, okay? What you do want to do is bend this knee. And we're coming back to that principle, stand or stack, okay? We're going to stack again. So I bend this knee to protect my knee, right? So, and Fitch was in a good position because his foot was tucked underneath here, like this. He can rock right up onto his knee. boom. And start putting pressure here. Knee on belly. Right now, Josh can turn my ankle, and there's no discomfort in my knee. Now we're at the point where I need to go back to what I should have been doing in the first place and what Fitch had started, which is ankle control, peeling this reap off. Everything is about getting rid of that reap. Now that I'm here, the reap is clear, and you're always going to be watching for this because Palhares and anybody else is going to always be trying to get it back. But once you clear it, you side roll out. Boom. You're in a very nice position here for lots of things, or just an escape. Okay? So, the three pivotal moments, let's just review them once again. After the single, he pulls Fitch down. Fitch is almost home free right here. He decides to stand up, which gives up his leg. What he could have done is continue to stack and sprawl, hip heist out of that butterfly over here, come to your side control. That would have been a really good option for him. Second option, right? He goes down, boom. He decides for some reason to stand up and counter this leg, right? He gets that. You can see Fitch trying for his own. He falls on it, realizes this isn't going to work. They both lose it. He goes for the Achilles. Fitch does the right thing, sits up, pins this leg. Palhares is laying on his side. Right, like this, right? Fitch's moment here. Remember, we're always trying to prevent the reap. Always. Always facing our opponent. Generally speaking, turning away out of leg locks is not a good idea. Everybody watch Alan Belcher versus Palhares, textbook 101. He faces Palhares the whole time. This is always what you want to do. Okay, so from here, what Fitch should have done, in my opinion, is butt scoot on top, free up this leg a little bit, and start working your stack again. Now we're pretty much back to that position that we had from the original takedown, except it's a little bit more of a half guard position. We're going to stack and sprawl, switch out, get your side control. Okay? That was option number two, pivotal point number two. Last one, we're here. Actually, let's do it from the beginning. Let's walk through the fight to point three. Point three. Boom. Goes down. We get here. Fitch stands up, attacks this foot. He attacks that foot. Falls. They both lose it. Yes, he goes there and rolls to his side. Fitch is going here. Instead of butt scooting out, he starts to roll, gives up the heel hook, and reap. Realizes that was a mistake. Tries to turn back, realizes the reap is there, preventing it. He continued to turn into the knee bar. What a good option would have been, bend this knee to protect from the heel hook, go to a knee on belly, and stack. Once we're here, even if he still has it, he can crank, and I'm not going to feel it as much. I start working on this, and then my escape. Bang. Bang. Okay? So this is a really good learning moment because I know that leg locks are an area of weakness for some people. And like Palhares even had some fine-tuned errors with his thigh control, not having tight legs that Fitch could have capitalized on with the butt scoot out over the leg and things like that. So this is really important, and this lesson I think just will provide very many fundamentals for people to practice, which is 1, go for the Achilles before you go for the heel hook. 2, once you get your thigh control, then switch to the heel hook. 3, from the defender's point of view, remember, it's never really a good idea to roll out of a leg lock, generally speaking. Even Achilles locks, heel hooks, toe holds, doesn't matter. Usually 9 times out of 10 it gives the attacker a better position, gives him the reap, gives him the leg control that he's looking for. So hopefully this was helpful. Thanks to Josh for coming by. Thanks for Jabari on the other side of the camera. And we'll see you soon.